Mouth breather. It has been a long, long time since I felt like opening my mouth and breathing a word of what I've been thinking and feeling. The last time I recorded a video was May of 2021, I want to say, which was a lifetime ago, a couple of lifetimes ago, really, because so many things have happened in my life. The house where I recorded all my previous videos was destroyed, along with basically all of my stuff, including the camera I recorded those videos on and the computer that they were housed on, which included the last copy of my previous final video, which was struck off of YouTube for daring to offend the mighty coronavirus gods. And so I recorded a few videos with my phone and uploaded them on a different channel, but I figured that the mouth breather concept was dead for the reasons which I explained in my The End video, which I no longer fully recall, but something was going on in my life at that point which made it seem like I had no future to look forward to. And then the house was destroyed, and everything since then has been chaotic. So I've still been scribbling down thoughts, but I've not wanted to commit to recording again. And so now I've finally started it up. Probably not going to record very many videos as long as these are my options, because the little pinhole camera in a web top is good enough for Zoom meetings, but it's not really what I had in mind for my channel concept. I'd actively prefer worse quality because it was my shtick back in the day, and I want to get back to that. But anyway, so the reason that I'm resurrecting the old channel concept instead of continuing on with the new channel is so this is not about the COOF. I've pretty much said everything I had to say about the COOF back when it was a ongoing consideration, and at this point virtually everyone has kind of admitted that it's at least mostly over, and some people are masking, but nobody's required to mask. Businesses aren't requiring employees to mask or get fired. That sort of thing hasn't happened in months. Everybody seems to have finally decided that the economy is more important than preserving people's illusions of safety, and so we've kind of moved on as a planet at this point, or at least America has. I don't know about the rest of the world, but the point of Mouth Breather as a channel was never really about coronavirus itself. It was about the way people acted because they were afraid of this ostensible pandemic, and the fact that they were so willing to embrace outrageous government outreach in the name of their supposed safety. And basically it was a commentary on America as a whole, and to a lesser extent other countries and the rest of the world in general. I'm trying to keep my shtick going and keep my eyes out of the frame, but it's not working, so the surveillance state is going to have plenty of footage of my entire face to work with if they ever want to send a drone strike to shut me up permanently. But hopefully we're not quite at that stage yet, and with my lifestyle I will hopefully drop dead of a heart attack before they get that far. Anyway, so I wanted to resurrect this channel because back in the winter of 20 through 21, I had a concept that I was working on putting together of basically the most ambitious and structured video I had ever done, which I never did finish doing, and what notes I had taken for it are gone now, so I don't know exactly what it was going to be about. But over the past number of months, I've been slowly reconstructing bits and pieces of the concept of that video, and I felt like I had a really decent chunk of it today. So I wanted to sort of begin preambling my way towards a reintroduction of the general concept of mouth breather. I'm not committing to recording even one video per month anytime in the foreseeable future, but I have been thinking about it for a while, and as the impetus grows and as my level of organization goes places, and as the winter makes it less pleasant for me to physically travel, so I need more ways to spend my time at home. And so, for various reasons of that sort, there will eventually be significantly more mouth breather videos. For the immediate future, this is probably going to be the only one that's added to my previous canon of a year or two ago. But what it is about is an attempted partial completion of the now lost original concept. Was going to be a video about what I see as the quintessentially American variety of evil, the particular approach to social issues which, more than anything else, brings out the worst in Americans specifically. And I am not one of those people who think that America is an inherently bad country, by the way. There's a lot of that rhetoric going around. A lot of people who are like, oh, America has never been anything other than slavery and genocide and this, that, and the other thing. I don't buy any of that crap. That is a ridiculous, stupid misinterpretation of history by people who are too busy playing Candy Crush on their phones, or whatever the new thing since Candy Crush is, to do proper deep dive historical research and actually understand the issues and put everything in context of the time and the wider social issues. And they just want an easy answer that allows them to feel morally superior to people in the past. That is actually a part of the subject that I'm talking about, but it's also just kind of an aside disclaimer of, I'm not here to bash America, I'm here to bash the particular type of evil that Americans very easily succumb to. So, back when I was working on putting the thing together, I had basically worked out that there were 4 categories that sort of interlocked with each other, each one feeding into the next, and so four broad tendencies within Americans which constructed the uniquely American version of evil. I don't quite fully remember what those 4 categories were, but I have a bit more of a sense of the general relationship among them today than I have on any previous day, which is why I'm finally doing this. So the basic concept is the one that I can really easily point to as the uniquely American aspect of evil is the idea of everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to smile and spend all their time thinking positively and doing nothing that upsets them or upsets other people or makes life emotionally difficult and challenging and any of that. Americans really want to feel good, and they don't ever want to hear a word about how anyone else isn't feeling good. This ties into a lot of observations that were made by Kurt Vonnegut in his books, which I have only read a few of, but I've heard descriptions of a lot of them on the former Cracked podcast, which I no longer have archived episodes of because of the fire, but it made an incredibly strong impression on me, and so even if I'm not able to track down the episodes on the internet and listen to them ever again, which I probably will be able to do at some point whenever I get that far, but even if that doesn't happen, even if I never hear them again, they have shaped my perception of a lot of matters very deeply. So one of the things that he said in some of his novels was that Americans, other people of other countries have an understanding that when a tourist goes to someone's home country, the people who are native to that country are going to be kind of grumpy towards the tourist because they don't really like foreigners stomping in and acting like they own the place, but that Americans uniquely have a desire to not only go to other countries, but to be welcomed there, to be treated as though they belong there, and to never interact with anyone who is anything less than polite and welcoming and completely happy to have America's dollars inserted into their local tourism economy. So Americans just want to be welcomed with open arms and treated like honored guests and low-level royalty and all that. And that's a good example of what I'm talking about. Another good example is the customer service industry. People from other countries like Europe or Japan think it's really weird that customer service and retail people here in America are always expected to smile at the customer, and to the point that it is, many people from Japan and whatnot have talked about how it kind of freaks them out. That everybody is smiling all the time. And I do think that's a uniquely American thing, and it is a symptom of this disease that I'm talking about. This constant desire to drug yourself with nothing but happy chemicals and spend your entire life in a fog where you don't perceive negative things happening. I think the specific reason why this came to mind today is a exchange I witnessed on the bus between a couple of guys who seemed like they were having a discussion about God from a perspective of one of them having sort of always believed in God by default, the way America indoctrinates children to do. A second of the 4 points that I was trying to put together had to do with American Christianity, and I was going to go really deep into that, but I'm not going to do that today. This is part 1, possibly of 4, if I ever manage to reconstruct all of the bits. But just reintroducing the concept in general. The idea is that so America kind of indoctrinates people to accept a belief in God uncritically at an early age, and so a lot of people will later in life have what can be regarded as a crisis of faith if you believe that faith is actually a thing worth having, which is a very debatable topic that I'm not getting into right now. So this one guy seemed like he believed in God but had just had a traumatic experience that had left him questioning, and another guy was like trying to give him the sales speech for God and trying to pitch how he just needs to trust in the Lord to solve whatever his current problem is. And the other guy seemed like it was really not helping, which I'm not sure if I perceived this whole situation entirely accurately, but if I did, my heart goes out to the guy who was literally on the verge of tears. I think I overheard him say something about how his children were taken away, and I was really tempted to say something to him about the fact that that doesn't have anything to do with God. That's the result of a very skewed American legal system, which might or might not be the third point of the 4-point thing that I'm working on. I've expressed. Actually, I'm not sure if I've gotten into it on Mouth Breather before, but I might as well just blurt it out because it's going to come up eventually, one way or another. I am a member of the incel movement, the group of men who looks at the idea of why it's so difficult for men to get laid in the modern world, and the various layers of kind of psychological programming and leftover instincts from our caveman eras, and laws constructed in a very one-sided fashion to kind of try and support the idea of protecting women and punishing men. There's a whole rabbit hole down there that I will go down at some point if I feel like it. But because of my work in this area and my studies of the way men are mistreated specifically in a gendered fashion, I had a lot of sympathy for this guy who it sounded like his children had been taken away from him by some disgruntled ex-wife, which is a very common syndrome in America. And so he was having this crisis of faith, and the other guy was opportunistically preying on him, it seemed like. Again, I didn't really catch the full context of this situation, so even if the guys had not dispersed off of the train that I was riding on, I would have not tried to confront them because I didn't have all the facts. But if my half-attentive catching of what they were going on about was at all accurate, then it really seemed as though the more Christian guy was kind of going, "Ooh, an opportunity to proselytize. This is a wayward lamb from my flock, so I can pounce on him and drag him back to the sheepfold." I'm not sure if there's another word for that. I was starting to say paddock, but I don't think that's right. This is a soul in need of shepherding, and I've always been thoroughly disgusted by the fact that Christianity uses sheep imagery for people, because people are not fucking sheep. I've hated that ever since I was a kid. I remember a specific argument that I got with a priest one time when I was like 10 or something, where he was saying, "Oh, well, don't we all feel like a wayward lost lamb at a time?" And even as this like 10-year-old kid, I was like, "No, that's stupid. No way. No human being deserves to be treated like that." So anyway, so this conversation was making me very pissed at the proselytizing guy and very sympathetic towards the guy who seemed to be in a family law kind of crisis. And so that kind of reawakened this whole concept of this 4 parts of American evil thing. Whatever I exactly end up calling it in the long run. That'll do for a title for now, at least. But like I said, I don't know if there's actually going to be 4 videos on this topic, or even another one. This is my attempt at reconstructing as much of the topic as possible in one go, and then I may or may not revisit it. So anyway, just to quickly recap, we've got the constantly smiling thing. We've got possibly the tendency to want to forgive women for their misdeeds and harshly punish men for even slight transgressions, especially in the area of sexuality, because we have this incredibly hateful concept of what male sexuality is. And then there's the tied in especially, this is the other thing that I'm quite certain was probably another point. Tied in with the idea of everybody being happy is the fact that Americans are uniquely wanting to be evil without being perceived as evil. That's point one. They want everything to be happy and shiny, and they never want negativity. But also, American evil is very predatory. It is very interested in identifying somebody weak and vulnerable, and then pouncing on them and exploiting them in ways that are harmful to them. So the religion example is a subset of that. The idea that a person who peddles belief in religion would specifically be drawn towards people who seem like they're going through a crisis of faith. I mean, it's very logical that you would do that, just as if you're a literal predator who needs to find an animal to eat, it's logical that you would seek out and target something weak and vulnerable so that you can get your prey and your food with minimal expenditure of effort. You don't have your prey fighting back and possibly killing you in order to keep itself alive. You can't have that. You're just trying to eat. So, I don't think the predators are evil. I get a lot of rhetoric around that in the anti-incel discussions that I hear a lot of. The idea that some people are just narcissistic and predatory and that makes them evil, I really dislike that, because a literal predator is a part of the natural balance, and there's nothing wrong with the fact that evolution has shaped you towards eating meat, and so, a cat is evolutionarily designed to hunt and kill mice and rats need to be killed because they breed in the billions. So there's nothing wrong with being a predator, but there's something very dishonorable about a predatory approach to any sort of problem solving. The idea that you specifically target the most vulnerable is bad enough when you're just doing it in order to kill an animal in order to fill your stomach, but when you're doing it to spread an ideology, and a possibly false ideology at that, by targeting people who are so much in a state of emotional distraughtness that they don't have their mental defenses up and can't be vigilant against the idea of accepting an idea into their head that they don't actually believe and that isn't good for them mentally. Like, I have a really huge problem with that, and that is something that I see mostly associated with religion and with this kind of supposed spiritual ministration to those in crisis. You know, maybe sometimes it's a good thing. That guy who I saw who was crying, maybe he really does need to be told that God has a plan for him, but it didn't seem like he was being receptive to that message. It really seemed like it was pissing him off, and I could understand exactly why it was pissing him off, because if I had been in that situation, that is how I would have reacted. I absolutely hate it when people try to tell me, oh, this tragic thing that happened to you is because something good is going to come of it. It is planned, it is preordained, so you should not feel as though this is a horrible tragedy that you deserve to not suffer. You should accept that the world is just. I think I've spoken on the just world fallacy before, and if I haven't, I'll just quickly say that it is one of the most sickening ideas I've ever heard. The world that I see when I look out the window is a creation of chaos with no plan of any sort guiding it, either originally or ongoingly. The world is a storm of havoc where things just happen, not for any reason, and bad things happen to people who don't deserve them. Good things happen to people who don't deserve them. The very idea that there is justice and that people get what they deserve is horrifying to me. And the fact that so many Americans and Christians and Christian Americans all uncritically accept that belief and buy into the idea of God having a plan and use that as a justification for why the status quo should be maintained. All of that is at least one, if not like 1.5, of the 4 pillars of American evil. Hopefully, you know, this is by far the longest video I ever put on Mouth Breather and probably the longest one I've recorded, period. So hopefully I have elucidated enough of the still incomplete concept to make up for the fact that I never recorded it back in the day when I first thought it up. I think what I had back then was pretty close to what I have right now, and hopefully I can finish baking this idea and put it into the world in its final form someday, but today is not that day.